Tag TV, and Tag Radio. Technology now has a voice of innovation and information. Get it on www.tagtvonline.com. With all the hype and spectacular growth in the digital entertainment industry, it's easy to understand why some confuse virtualizing an object to create an artificial one with the same attributes and behavior as the word's primary definition. In computing, virtualization is a broad term that reflects to the abstraction of computer resources. Platform virtualization separates an operating system from the underlying platform resources. Resource virtualization is the virtualizing of specific resource systems. Computer clusters, grid computing, application virtualization, and desktop virtualization. Yikes, there's a lot to know and understand. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, March 17th, 2009, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. On today's edition, the Tech Talk asks the question, have you seen your virtual network today? As Tino speaks with Pete Privateer, the President and CEO of Reflex Systems, one of the industry's leaders in virtualization management, the kind that helps organizations accelerate next-generation virtualized data centers. When Pete joined Reflex Systems, he brought with him more than a quarter century of senior leadership experience in the industry. At Atlanta's, then nation, then global worldwide industry giant ISS division of IBM, he held a position of Vice President of Sales, and prior to the IBM acquisition, he was ISS Vice President of Worldwide Marketing and Product Management. Former President of Intrusic, and at Pelican Security, he has always been the top executive leader for overall strategy and operations. At one of the first internet security software companies, Axiom Technologies, he served as co-founder and senior vice president of operations, where he successfully helped lead that company from startup to IPO prior to its sale to Symantec. From just what is virtualization to identifying its opportunities for companies across Georgia, Tino Tech Talks virtualization with industry pioneer and top executive leader, Reflex Systems President and CEO, Pete Privateer.
Pete, good morning. Thank you for joining me on Tech Talk.
Thanks, Tino. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Well, Frank, in the introduction, talked a lot about virtualization, and I'm not sure if our listeners will actually be clear based on that, what it all means. So can you perhaps simplify it a bit and talk about virtualization?
Sure. Virtualization is, in my mind, the next major paradigm shift in enterprise computing. Again, as it was mentioned earlier, it's a platform for computing that uses the servers and desktops to essentially run multiple operating systems and therefore multiple computers inside of one computer. The benefit of this is you can, in a data center, reduce the number of servers that you have by, in some cases, as much as 1/10. And, of course, by reducing the number of servers in the data center, you reduce also the amount of heat produced and the amount of electricity consumed. So this is a wave that is being driven by the movement towards green technology. It allows us to reduce the heat signature, reduce the electrical consumption, and, of course, we can also manage this environment with fewer people. And these cost benefits are driving this motion. Analysts tell us that by the year 2011, 2012, most data centers will be fully virtualized.
So I think you also provided an explanation within that explanation in respect to why companies are using virtualization today. But it sounds like for many companies there's inefficiencies in respect to not fully utilizing the capacity of their servers. Is that the key piece?
Yeah. Servers today are, of course, based off of personal computers. Personal computers were designed to run a single operating system, and as such are not efficiently utilized. So when we have one server in a data center, then we have a lot of CPU cycles that are left over. We have a lot of processing power, memory, and that sort of thing that are not being efficiently utilized. And using virtualization, we can dramatically increase those efficiencies, which is, of course, how we can achieve the reduction in the numbers of computers. And, of course, in these economic times, IT organizations are doing everything they possibly can to reduce their IT costs. And virtualization is a compelling way to do that. Again, with fewer machines, you have fewer things to go wrong, and you have an environment that's much easier to manage and maintain. Another factor in virtualization is we can not only virtualize servers in the data center, but we can virtualize the desktop environments. In fact, because there's so much processing power, we can actually run maybe 30 or 40 different PCs inside of one physical machine. Again, dramatically reducing the number of desktops that are out there, and of course that dramatically reduces the amount of maintenance, troubleshooting, help desk time, and so on. You don't have to run out to everybody's desktop. Reimaging a machine is a click of a button. So you can see there are many benefits to moving to a virtualized environment, and that's why it's such a big paradigm shift.
Now, is this primarily, the configurations are primarily done in an outsourced capacity, or is this something that some companies would elect to create these efficiencies and manage them, inside their company versus in say, a separate data center?
Well, to date, most of the data center consolidation using virtualization has been done mostly by the corporations and by the data center people. However, there is a trend to look at this as a cloud solution. In other words, to basically go to vendors that provide computing on demand. And this is made economically possible by virtualization. In other words, to provision a new machine or a new service or new application for a customer is really just a click of a mouse. No longer do I have to go out, rack a computer, connect it to the network, and get it up and running, which might be a couple-week process. Now it's as easy as a click of a mouse. So we see hosting companies moving towards this on-demand or cloud computing resource, and I think there will be a substantial percentage of organizations that will take advantage of this, again, for the economic benefits and economic savings. In other words, pay for what you use. But to date, it's been primarily done in-house.
In-house. And this seems like a no-brainer, but it's not happening at the speed of light. Not every company, I would assume, is moving quickly to virtualization. But so what's holding them back? What are the big challenges related to taking a company from these independent servers, if you will, to more of a virtualized model?
Well, organizations are hesitant to move their mission-critical applications to virtualized infrastructure because they lack the visibility, management, performance, and security software necessary to see, optimize, understand, and control these complex virtual environments. As the environments become more complicated, they can't be easily managed by conventional tools. The tools that are managing data centers today don't comprehend or understand a virtual environment. A virtual environment where a virtual computer, and virtual applications can move around between physical servers or can be spawned automatically or can go away automatically. So organizations today need a new generation of tools to help them manage this new environment, and that's been an inhibitor. Another inhibitor is security. Security professionals are reluctant to sign off on virtualization projects because the current crop of security tools cannot adequately monitor or protect the virtualized environment. Another barrier is auditors and compliance officers are often slow down the migration of mission-critical applications to virtualization because they are not able to audit and they have very little visibility into that virtualized world. And these are all things that we see being solved, we'll go from about 10% virtualization that we are today to probably 80 or 90% by 2011 or 2012. as these new tools and techniques roll out to manage the environment.
Now, Reflex is right in the center of this, and so talk a little bit about how you help companies overcome the challenges that we've discussed. Also, I think it'd be interesting to understand how you've evolved, because obviously the company was formed before virtualization was on the map.
Exactly. Well, Reflex was one of the early security companies focusing on network intrusion prevention systems. But a few years ago, it became obvious to us that virtualization was a whole new frontier and a major paradigm shift. And we saw this lack of tools and the lack of ability to manage that environment. So we decided to focus exclusively on providing management and security solutions for the virtual data center. Our technology, our software technology today runs as a virtual machine in the virtual environment and can discover and map each element of the virtual infrastructure while providing centralized visualization, revision control, reporting, management, in addition to being able to do performance monitoring, optimization, virtual machine lifecycle, application and storage performance, and so on. Combining all of these factors together give IT organizations the tools they need, the purpose-built tools they need to manage a virtual infrastructure.
Well, and you're an innovative company, as recognized by TAG's Top 40 recently, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And the final question is, so what are the opportunities available to other companies in Georgia in respect to virtualization?
Well, again, virtualization is a brand new frontier. I liken it to the early days of client-server, for those that can remember back to the early 1990s when we transitioned from centralized mainframe computing to virtualization. And there are all the traditional systems management requirements for this new environment. A lot of the big players have been a little bit asleep at the switch in terms of providing purpose-built virtualization security or virtualization solutions. And so I do think that organizations have a lot of opportunities in the storage area, the security area, performance, change control, configuration management, all the traditional things we see for the physical data center need to be purpose-built and need to be redesigned for the virtual data center. And I think this presents a great opportunity for early-stage innovative companies to come out and do the things that the big players are not doing.
So for all of our listeners that haven't taken the plunge into virtualization, check with your vendor, check with Reflex Systems, and see what they can do for you. Pete, thanks for joining me on Tech Talk today.
You're welcome, and thanks to all your listeners.